The National Consumer Commission is accusing some vehicle dealerships of selling faulty vehicles. This after some consumers approached the Commission complaining about buying vehicles that were not roadworthy. Joining us is Phetho Ntaba, National Consumer Commission spokesperson. Phetho, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. Just give us a bit of background. Are these individuals, and what, in numbers terms, if you're able to share that with us, how many have come forward in whatever space of time to share these problems with you?
Thank you so much for you, and good afternoon to you and the viewers at home. Generally, when we look at our statistics at the National Consumer Commission, on average, you can say around 250 or 300 complaints per month are that of second-hand motor vehicles, where either consumers would say they bought this vehicle, they were never given information about the car or history of the car, or they experienced defects within a short period of time, be it a month, a day, or 3 days, or whatever, but the shortest period of time. And of course, when they start engaging with the supplier, either they repair the vehicles, but not to the satisfaction of the consumer, or they bluntly refuse to repair or refund the consumer. So those are some of the trends that we see as the NCC. And of course, where consumers would say, we went to MIOSA for mediation. It's an ombudsman. And of course, an ombudsman recommended that the supplier either fix or repair, refund, or replace the vehicle. And they would say, no, they actually did not even consider the recommendation by the ombuds. And we want to say, actually, these ombuds were established to ensure that they resolve these complaints speedily. And you can imagine a case where now a consumer is sitting at home paying for a vehicle that they cannot enjoy. And of course, because a supplier refuses, for whatever reason, they feel that it's either, they would say it's either it was the consumer's driving behavior that rendered the car or that, broke the vehicle, or they will give other reasons or say, you signed the terms and conditions that actually said anything that will, any defect rather, that will arise after the transaction, as the dealership will not be held accountable. Those, of course, are in contravention of the Consumer Protection Act.
Now, but have you or has anyone done any independent study or commissioned an independent study that looks or like at the different categories of this problem, and then said, say, a majority of them or this percentage of them are actually cars that were sent or that were sold to an unsuspecting consumer without certain things being disclosed, or things happened only afterwards, or the dealership themselves didn't even know or bother to even check? Has anyone done that sort of work?
Look, there might be someone who have done that sort of work, Vuyo, just to try to categorize the issues. But what we are seeing as the National Consumer Commission, some of the dealerships actually are aware of the consumer rights. That's where you find issues where they would say you have signed the terms and conditions or a document that actually says, should you discover any defect, they are aware exactly as to what is it that they are doing. But as the National Consumer Commission, we've actually also taken a decision to say we want to bring all the role players around the table. Just also, number one, to empower some of the dealerships. Because one other trend that we have discovered when we got to the tribunal was when one dealership said, actually, when you look at our terms and conditions, it's general, it's a practice, in the industry. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And when you look at the terms and conditions, they're actually in contravention of the Consumer Protection Act. So that's exactly what we want to address. And of course, just to say, this is what is provided for in the law. And of course, by so doing or by not following that, you have deprived the consumer. I remember one of the judgments where the tribunal really said, those terms and conditions actually, not only that they deprive the consumer the right to buy a vehicle that is free of defects, but also they bring the industry into disrepute. Because as consumers, when you go out and buy a vehicle, most of the time we actually rely on the salesman. When you say, give me the history of this vehicle. Was it ever involved in an accident? And they will say everything is above board. You can buy the vehicle comfortably so. But when we start experiencing problems, or when consumers start experiencing problems, it's a different story altogether. And of course, that's why from time to time, we do take these matters to the Consumer Tribunal. And of course, they do rule in favor of the consumer, either a refund, a replacement, or that they repair the vehicle. But I think it's also important. Yes, but
no, I wanted to ask. I mean, if they do, consumers generally have the protection of the law. How easy is it for a consumer who's keen to buy a car now that they think is a, bargain, or at least suits their pocket, to actually access, that help, hopefully beforehand or before things go awry?
I'm not too sure if I got your question correctly, but I think when it comes to buying a vehicle, generally, whether second-hand or brand new, but in this case, because we're talking about second-hand motor vehicles, it is important that you really understand the vehicle itself, understand the industry, in a sense that if you buy a car, inspect it. We've seen people buying vehicles online and they receive something else completely different. Inspect the vehicle. You are protected by the law. They cannot force you to buy a car that you're not comfortable with, or to say rush you into deciding. Test drive the car, get someone who is going to assist you to evaluate the car and ask those questions. We are also mindful of the fact that even if you ask questions, they actually don't give you the correct information to enable you to be able to buy that particular vehicle. We rely heavily on them, and when they don't give you the correct information, that we then say, do approach the NCC. Unfortunately, when you look at our law, Vuyo, is that there has to be a transaction, and something has to go wrong during the transaction or when one has transacted. But nothing stops the consumer from really getting other services. You might have to pay for those services just to protect yourself, but it's better to take a bit of time, understand the product that you are buying, than experiencing the challenges afterwards, because it will take a bit of time for us again to get redress as sought by the consumer.
Phetho Ntaba, I wish we could speak more, but let's leave it there for now. She's the National Consumer Commission's spokesperson, following, of course, an accusation that car dealerships across South Africa are selling faulty vehicles to unsuspecting consumers who then don't know where to go once those challenges do come to the fore. But of course, the Consumer Commission is advising people to use ombuds, but also to do their own checks before actually committing your hard-earned money to a car that may turn out to have been seriously faulty.